The next example of when the political process generally doesn't work very well, or maybe the way to say it is it doesn't work very well for us as voters, right? This is where we tend to get inefficient projects, okay? Okay, and it's the example of log rolling. Now, I know some of you were thinking, you know what log rolling is because you watched that obscure ESPN channel at 2 a.m. and you saw one of those like woodcutter logging type competitions. That's not what we're talking about here, right? It's not when people get up on the log and try to balance, right? Log rolling is a term that basically means the trading of votes in legislative bodies, right? So when politicians get together and agree to vote on each other's proposals, that's called log rolling, right? So it's the trading of votes by various politicians in order to obtain passage of bills and legislation that they favor, right? So, you know, you might ask yourself, well, why would they do this, right? Well, let's think through this, right? Suppose I represent the great state of Florida, you represent, say, Georgia, and somebody else represents Alaska, and somebody else represents Iowa, right? Okay, suppose I get up there in the House of Representatives and I go to the floor and I say, look, I am advocating for, subsidies for citrus farmers in Florida, right? I'm probably going to lose, right? Because you're going to sit there thinking if you're the representative from Iowa, you're like, why do I care about citrus? We can't grow orange trees in Iowa. It's too cold, right? So why would you care about my proposal from Florida, right? So if each of us individually try to get votes for our different proposals, a lot of times they fail, right? And so this is why politicians trade votes, right? If you ever are really bored and you tune into C-SPAN and it's showing like the House or the Senate floor, and a lot of times you just see people milling around talking, right? Well, what they're doing is they're negotiating over different proposals and how they're going to vote, right? They're log rolling, right? So the way it works is that I'm the representative from Florida, so I go to the representative from Iowa. I say, okay, look, I really care about this project for Florida, so how do I get your vote, right? And you as the representative from Iowa, you say, well, corn farmers are really important for us here. So as long as you go along with these things that support corn farmers, I'll vote for your proposal, you vote for my proposal, right? And then I go along to the next person and I ask them blah, 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 right? And I do this until I have enough votes, right? And then I bring my proposal to the floor, right? And so that's why politicians engage in log rolling. Now, so a lot of times they do log rolling, but with log rolling there is one issue. So suppose we go through, right? So I get up there and I put my proposal on the floor and we get a majority vote and my proposal passes. And so I say, okay, great. And we go next, the representative from Iowa goes, their proposal passes, etc. And suppose we finally get to, the representative from New York, right? I agreed earlier to vote for that representative's proposal so that he would vote for mine, but now, I've already gotten mine passed, right? It passed. I got what I needed for Florida. New York, you're on your own, right? So there's a credibility issue. When you engage in log rolling, the people whose proposals come later, right? If we voted on all of our proposals and they passed, I have less of an incentive to vote for the other proposals because I've already gotten what I wanted, right? So there's a credibility issue. So this leads us to what we call pork barrel legislation. That is to kind of solve, according to the politicians, to solve this issue, what they do is they put all of these proposals into one piece of legislation, right? So this is where you put all spending programs into one piece of legislation. Then I don't have to worry about that person not voting for my stuff, right? Now everyone has an incentive to vote for this piece of legislation because it includes the stuff for the representative of Iowa. It includes the stuff for the representative in Alaska, right? It includes the stuff for the representative from New York, right? It gets all put into one, and then we all vote at the same time, right? So it increases the likelihood that all these different government programs will pass, okay? So this term is a very U.S. term. In the United States for a long time, government spending has always been called pork. And so if you put it all into one package, right, it's like putting it all into a barrel. So that's why it's called pork barrel legislation, right? Now, when politicians engage in pork barrel legislation, they also have to engage in what is called earmarking. So another weird term, okay? But earmarking is basically when politicians put into these spending bills how the money is to be spent, right? So this is used to basically by politicians to bring money to their particular district, right? So for Florida, right, some of this money would be earmarked for citrus farmers. Citrus, that looks funny. Citrus, U.S.? I don't know. Citrus farmers, boy, my spelling is just not doing well today. If it's Iowa, it's going to go for corn farmers, right? So to make sure the money that's spent in this piece of legislation goes to where the politicians want it to go in each of their districts, they spell it out in the legislation, and this is called earmarking, okay?